Welcome. My guest tonight is Mr. Cory Culp. How you doing there,
Doing
sir?
fine.
He's a mentor in the Charlotte community. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your mentor.
Well, my name's Cory Culp, of course. You said that. And the program that I deal with is actually a church program. It's at the Jerusalem Holiness Pentecostal Church. That's on the corner of 18th and McDowell, 714 East 18th Street in McDowell. We try to deal with the young people. We try to give them a perspective on life to make them focus their life on God, to keep their mind on God. We try to give them, we try to make them see life to have positive goals, to reach so that they don't have to go through the struggles that we've had to go through as we've come up. Of course, it's a lot of things that's out here today that we didn't have. A lot of programs, say for us, we didn't have a lot of mentors. We didn't have a lot of people that we can go to and talk to. All we had was our parents, and our parents really had to work hard. So, for myself, coming up, my parents worked night shift, day shift. So a lot of times I would come home and it was just me and my little brother. So of course, what would anybody do that's in that position? They would go out.
Correct.
And they would get into things that's in the world. You find drugs, you find sex, you find crime, you find whatever's out there for you. Anything that's wrong is out there if you don't have a positive person in your life. And I think we all, even adults, not just children, we all need a positive, impact in our life.
Okay, as far as the youth that you mentor, how long have you been doing it, and what type of passion do you have as far as being a mentor for these individuals?
Oh, I love it, man, because just to see the change in the kids and to see the kids light up when they change themselves, when they make the change for themselves, and they see, and they say, wow, I've come this far and I can't believe, just them, believing in themselves, and I've been doing it now for, I say about 6 or 7 years. And, the results of it is great. It really touches my heart, and I have my own kids as well.
Correct.
But the children that's in the church, they go out and they tell their friends about it. And we always encourage them, please, by all means, bring your friends. We want to be an impact to everybody. We not only are we a church, but we like a family. We want to be something that everybody can be a part of. When you come, you don't necessarily have to come to a service. If you need somebody to talk to, the doors are always open. Hey, I want to talk. Come on in and talk. We're fine with that.
As far as being a parent, because I'm a single parent, 2 boys, how important is listening to the children?
That's the first step, is listening, because if you don't listen at your kids, you never know what they're going through. In order to be a good mentor, a good parent, you have to be a good listener. And myself, sometimes, I don't always listen. Sometimes I try to out-talk everybody. But I'm learning as I continue to grow. You got to listen. You got to listen at your kids, because I had a situation with one of my kids where they said, "Well, Dad, you're a good dad, but I'm afraid to talk to you because you won't let me. I don't really feel like you'll listen at what I got to say." And you got to take that in. When a child tell you something like that, you got to take it in, and you got to grow from that. You got to say, well, okay, you got to say, self, it's time to listen. It's time to start looking at it through their eyes, see what they see, hear what they're saying. So, I try to definitely listen at what they're saying, because once you sit down and you listen to what young people have to say, you will see for yourself that they really know what's going on.
Do you think that parents are listening to being the mentor like you are, do you think that parents are listening to their kids, or are they just telling them?
Well, I think now with the way things are going in society today, I think that we do have a lot of parents that are not listening. And we do have a lot of children that's turning, the other way. They turning the wrong way because they feel like their parents are not listening to them. They feel like they don't have anybody to talk to. So if you don't have anybody to talk to, what you do, you'll find somebody that you could talk to. And sometimes that other person that you talk to, they won't be the person that's the best person for you. They may listen to you for the time being, but then after you finish talking, they say, well, hey, man, come on over here. Let's go over here and, let's take a drink, or let's go over here and let's go to this club, or let's go over here and do this. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do some drugs. So everybody that a child talk to is not always a positive person to talk to. They're not always a good person at that moment. You know, some kids, they just want to hear "I love you" or "You're doing a great job," or you know, they sometimes kids just want to talk. I know, you know, again, my son, I come home, he'll greet me, "Hey, Dad, how you doing? How was your day?" And I say, "Fine. And how was yours?" And we'll talk, and you know, I just try to be not only his dad, but I try to be his friend, but keep the borderline. Now, you know, as a parent, you can be a child's friend, but you got to have that borderline, as well as his mentor in church, you know, as well as his role model. You know, in order to be a good mentor and a good role model, you have to show yourself to the kids. I can't come and say, well, you can't do this, but I can, because kids are watching you, you know, and kids will do exactly what you do. One thing we always say, you know, when we talking to the parents at the church, you know, as well as the youth, we'll tell them our kids are a reflection of us. If your child is out in the street and they doing something crazy, maybe it's something that you're not doing. And that's not always, you know, a lot of people take that as a negative. It's not a negative. It's something that can turn into a positive, because that can bring you closer to your child.
I know you mentioned some words, "I love you." How important is that to say that to your children?
Oh, that's very important, because myself, growing up, I really didn't hear that a lot. And, you know, going through some of the things that I've been through in my life, you know, and I've had this conversation with my wife a lot of times, you know, in past years. She said, "Do you know how to," and that's a big question, do you know how to love? In order to feel love, you got to be able to show love, you know, and I don't think I've always knew how to show love. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big thing. And when you feel, when you're coming up as a young man or a young woman, and you feel that love, you know, you turn out, you try to make better decisions. You know, for myself, by me, you know, not feeling the love that I thought I should feel, you know, I made a lot of bad decisions. For instance, I played sports in high school. And by me not having that extra push, that extra, you know, "You're doing a great job," or "I love you," or whatever, you know, I quit the team. And me quitting the team ended up me, you know, getting a girl pregnant when I was in high school. And, you know, it led to me, you know, okay, I'm going to school, so I can't work. You know, I can't work as many hours as I need to, which led to me selling drugs, you know, which, you know, it wasn't in God's will for me to go to prison or anything. You know, I kind of dodged that bullet, thank God. But, you know, everybody's not fortunate that way. So, you know, as a kid hearing "I love you," a lot stems off of that, a whole lot, you know, because when a child feels love at home, they don't go outside the doors looking for something else. They got a tendency to come straight to the source if they know that they're being loved.
Misery like company.
Oh.
How do you keep your children? I mean, it's like, how do you talk to the kids when they try to go through that path?
Well, the misery part, you got to, when you're talking to your kids, you got to always stay positive. You don't want to feed, you know, kids' brains, we say kids' brains are like sponges. They absorb everything.
Correct.
And you know, you want to stay positive. If you have something going on in your day, you know, you don't want to go home, you know, you had a bad experience. You don't want to go home and you know, get that to your kids, because then your kids, they're going to say, well, Dad mad, so I'm going to be mad. Or, you know, I don't want to hear nothing. It'll reflect. It's like a domino effect. You know, one bad person will set off another bad person, which will set off another bad person. So you want to stay positive. You want to do your best to stay positive at all times. We all have situations in life. We all have issues in life. But it's always, a negative can always be turned into a positive. It goes according to how do you handle it. You know, if a person, you know, comes up to you and don't know you and call you out of your name, you know, that's not always a situation where you go, well, man, who you talking to? Sometimes, you know, you just say, well, hey, you know, if that's how you feel, you know, I apologize. If I've done something to you, I apologize, you know, but you really don't know me to call me out of my name. So you wanna try to definitely stay positive when you're dealing with kids.
There's so much going on in our community, especially dealing with the youth. We're talking about the crime, we're talking about the education, we're talking about teen pregnancy. There's so much that's going on in our community. How important is it for you to be, as far as being a mentor, for these children to come to you and tell you about these issues that we're dealing with?
It's very important because, again, like I said before, you know, children just want to have somebody that they can talk to, somebody that they can depend on, somebody that they can lean on, you know. And if they feel like you're a positive impact in their life and they're going through something, you know, you can catch it before it happens. You know, they may be having a situation where they see their parents struggling. Okay, so now my parents struggling. Well, how can I make it better to help my parents out? You know, the next step is to go out and sell drugs or to try to rob somebody. So if they have a positive impact as a mentor, you know, a positive mentor in their lives, they can call them up and they can say, well, look, man, I'm dealing with this. You know, how do I get around this? You know, what can I do to get around not feeling the way I feel, or get around going to do something wrong, you know, to make my situation worse than what it is? Because a lot of times, you know, when we do stuff, we don't think about what's down the road. We don't think about the consequences. We think about now, you know, and you know, as a youth, you really don't think about the future, you know, because I know when I was younger, I felt like I can just get up and go play basketball, come home and eat and go to sleep, not thinking, how did that food get in the refrigerator? Or, you know, how's this roof being provided? You know, who's providing this roof over my head? You know, where's the income coming from? So, you know, and young people don't think about the big picture. See, everything has a big picture. You know, you can't just live with your blinders on. You have to see everything. You know, you have bills, you have this, you have that, but it's a bigger picture.
What are how would you handle a situation with someone coming to you, a young lady coming with you, telling you that she's pregnant and she can't really talk to her parents because of the fear of what they may do?
Well, a situation like that, that's kind of a touchy situation because you don't want to overstep a parent's boundary. You know, you want to stay in that mentor's position. So you just want to talk to her, and you want to let her, again, you want to be positive. You want to say, well, okay, this is a mistake that you made, but no child is a mistake. Every child is a blessing. You know, so it's definitely a positive that can come out of it. And you sit down and you talk to them, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. This may take 5-6 months, 4 or 5 years. You know, time is not an issue. You know, when you're dealing with youth. But as far as the pregnancy, you want to talk to them. You just want to be positive, if possible. You want to get with the parents, and you want to say, well, hey, you know, this is the situation. You know, let's not make this out to be a big negative. Correct. You know, let's turn this into a positive, because it's nothing that you can do to change the situation. You know, what's done is done. Let's move forward. You know, we can't move forward if we keep looking backwards.
And that's a key thing, not looking back. Because sometimes we have a tendency to look back into our lives, and that may hold us from progressing into being a better individual.
Yes.
You know, and I see, Cory, I see you being an outstanding member in the community. You're inside the church and all that. What makes Cory do the things that he do?
God. I try to listen to that still voice of God, and I try to let God lead me to do what he want me to do. I heard a message a while back. When you start serving God, you got to put self on the shelf. So in order for me to do his work, I got to forget about me. It's not what I want to do, it's what he want me to do. And we all want, you know, all members make up a body of Christ. Correct. And the more that you go out and you be a light to those in the community, or those in the church as well, you know, we have to be a light to those that we're around on a daily basis as well. But to go out into the community and be a light, that's God. God wants us to all be a light to somebody that's walking in the dark. You know, that's a prayer. You know, I pray every day, Lord, let me be an example to somebody today. You know, I'm not going to do everything right, but forgive me for the things that I haven't done yet. Forgive me. So, you know, it's definitely, for me, I love helping people, and I just try to go by what the Lord say. You know, a lot of times when we step out of the will of God, we'll mess it up. Right. You know, if you stay within the will of God and you just listen and be patient. See, that's a key. You got to be patient. A lot of times we want God to react and we want to go out and do something. We want God to react then. God time ain't our time. You understand? So we got to work on his time. If he, like today, he sent me to do this show. Correct. Okay, so by me doing this show, that don't mean I go out and start telling every young person I see, hey, come on over here and do this. I got to wait for the Lord to move and say, well, hey, there's somebody that need help. Or check my email and say, well, hey, somebody needs help. Somebody wants to talk. Is it a way that I can get in touch with you? You know, so you just wait on God. You be patient. God will make everything happen for you in his time. And when you work on God's time, you know, everything always turns out perfect. It's never wrong. Nothing is wrong about God.
Through the things that you went on through your past, how has that made you a better man?
The things that I've done in my past made me a better man because, I've had a positive person in my life, you know, that I was able to turn to. It's my wife's father, my father-in-law.
Oh, okay.
And I give him a lot of credit because when I felt like I didn't really have nobody to talk to, I can call him. And I can say, well, Mr. Count, you know, I'm going through this and I'm going through that. And he would always tell me, you know, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm just giving you a bit of advice. And that's what you want. You don't want somebody to tell you, well, go out and do this. You want to hear some advice. You know, what would you do if you was in this situation? How do I handle this situation? You know, like when my wife got pregnant with my son, I was working at a car wash. And, you know, everybody was like, you need to quit working at car wash. You ain't making no money. I said, I'm making enough money. I'm not leaving because I didn't want to hear. But he pulled me to the side and he said, listen, we understand that that's what you want to do, but let's look at the big picture. You got a baby coming. You got to buy Pampers. You got to buy milk. You got to buy this. You got to buy that, as well as you got to pay your bills. So by him just being that positive impact in my life, you know, he made me look at life from a different perspective. It's not always, you know, you're going to have struggles, but you can make it through your struggles if you just take time and just relax, think things over, you know, sit down with your spouse, your significant other.
Correct.
You got to always talk. If you talk, and you can always come up with a resolution to any problem.
I know you said you had to talk to your father-in-law. Okay, how about your parents? How much effect did they have in your life?
Well, as I left home at 18. And as I said, you know, growing up as a teenager, you know, my parents they were there, but they wasn't there. They did the best that they can do. You know, not nothing bad. I had good parents. Well,
Sure.
my father was in New York, and my stepfather raised me with my mother. You know, they did the best that they can do. You know, I can't sit back and I can't say, well, I should have done this and it's your fault because I didn't do it because you wasn't there. No, I made the decisions that I made because I made them, you know. So my parents, you know, they did the best that they can do, you know, and something that I always try to do, I always try to say, well, I try to learn from their mistakes.
Correct.
And by them not being there when I really needed them to be, you know, they were there, but I don't think that they were there for me when I really needed them the most, when I really needed them to help me make a big decision about college or about going out to this place or going out to that place. You know, it was always, well, I can't tell you where to go, just go. If you want to go, go. You know, and that's not always something that a young black male needs to hear. You know, well, just go ahead and do what you want to do. You're going to do it anyway. You know, sometimes you just need that, you know, listen, you need to stay home. Go ahead and stay home and you know, we can do something else. You know, so my parents, like I said, they did the best that they could do. And what I do is I learn from them to try to do, you know, things a little bit different with my children because when my kids were younger, and they still young, I mean, they're only, you know, teenagers, but
Correct.
when they were younger, you know, I ran the streets, and my wife brought it to my attention, and she said, you know, she said, look at you when you come in and how they react to you, and look at me when I come in and how they react to me. She said, you here, but you're not here. And that's something to think about. You know, and I come home and my kids, they look at me like, oh, who is this guy? You know, that's a hurting feeling as a father. You know, you there and you saying, well, I'm a good daddy. But are you? You know, are you really a good daddy? So, you know, you got to, and at that point I had to make a decision in my life. I said, I got to stop doing me and start doing them. You know, and the more I start doing them, the more I start developing a relationship with my children. And, you know, and I look at some of the decisions that I make, for instance, like you asked me about listening.
Correct.
You know, I didn't always have somebody to listen at me. So now I try to listen at my kids. You know, I try to, my youngest daughter, you know, she's real stubborn. And, you know, sometimes she'll talk and sometimes she won't. But she know if she want to talk, daddy will listen.
Correct.
You know, my son know I'm always be there. And I tell him, I said, listen, if you want, he plays sports. And I tell him, don't play for me because I want you to play. Play because you want to play. You know, I'm going to be there to support you whether you play football, chess, draw, read, whatever. I'm going to be there to support you. So just, my parents, that's what I got from my parents. And I thank them for that, because in order for them to make mistakes, I had to learn from their mistakes as well as some that I made, so that I don't make the same mistakes with my children, because mistakes turn into patterns.
Correct.
When parents raise their kids one way, their kids grow up and raise their kids the same way, and then it's something more added to it because it's a different time. And then their kids will come up and they'll raise their kids the same way they were raised, and then eventually, then it's nothing. Kids just doing what they want to do.
As far as do your boys, do they participate in type of sports, and how important is that for you to be involved in their type activities?
It's always support, man. Support is a big thing, especially for a young male. Support, just knowing that somebody's there, to see you. Again, like I said, I play sports coming up, and my mom came to maybe one basketball game and one football game, but I was a great athlete coming up, and just when you can come off the field or come off the court or come off whatever you're doing, just to come off and sit down during the timeout and you look back and that parent up there or that mentor up there saying, go ahead, you're doing a good job. That means a lot. That gives you that drive to continue on, But if you look back and nobody's there, you start feeling like you say, well, why am I really doing this? What's the purpose? I don't feel like nobody's pushing me. So you love the game, but you don't really have that drive. So that support really bring on that drive to make you want to keep going, because you're going to have somebody to push you to say, well, hey, you did a good job, or, hey, you did a bad job, but let me help you improve, so that you don't do that again in that position,
Correct. I know you have the mentoring program at church. Do you want to further yourself out as far as a mentoring program for yourself, starting your own mentoring program?
I would, because I would really I like helping people. And as far as me mentoring, I stretch that even further as well, because I'm a coach as well, which I didn't coach this year, but I've coached football and I've coached basketball. And, I always try to give the kids, I said, well, okay, well, listen, you might not win one game, but you'll learn one life lesson throughout this whole process of your life. I not only teach them how to play the sport, I try to teach them how to be men. I try to teach them how to have respect for themselves. I stay on them about, with their homework. I tell their parents, if it's something that they're doing at home that you don't agree with, then send them to me, and we'll discipline them together. You do your part at home,
Correct.
And I discipline them on the field or on the court. My basketball team, the parents, they said they loved me so much because they said that, I gave the kids something else to play for, and which I really didn't. I made them believe that they were better than they were. You know what I'm saying? And once you believe in your mind that you can do something, you try harder. Regardless if you can do it or not, you try harder. And sometimes that's all it takes is to try harder, and you can excel at what you do. My team, the team that I actually coached, we started off, kind of rocky.
Correct.
And the kids hung their heads, and I said, well, listen, ain't no point in hanging your head. Learn from it. And, I told them, I said, well, okay, well, you did this wrong this time. You did this wrong this time. You did this wrong this time. Okay, so now we're going on another 3-game stretch. Let's do something different in each game, and I promise you, if you listen to what I'm telling you, you'll come out on top. So, and they did it, and they were successful at it, and they looked at me and they was like, well, wow, coach, you were right. You showed us this and you showed us that. I said, yeah, I was right, but you believed in your heart that you can do it, and that's the key, and that's part of being a mentor. When you're a mentor, you got to make people believe that they can do better for themselves. You got to make young people, you got to let them know, hey, you're going to go through things, but when you fall, you get back up. You brush yourself off, and you keep going. I'm always here to talk to you. I'm always be here for you. Even like we start with kids when they're small. In my church, we have kids that's done went on to college.
Correct.
And we still try to keep contact with them. How you doing? Or we try to go visit them. How you doing? Is everything going all right? We still here for you. We still love you. Anything you need, just pick up the phone and call. And, some of them do. That some of them call, some of them don't. But we always believe that, when a child is raised in the church, eventually they'll come back,
Correct.
Because the seed has been planted. once you plant that seed and God start watering it, you know that it'll start growing and they'll come back home.
When you see those kids go off to college and they come back and talk to you about the situation that's going on at school, how do you tell them to deal with those type of things?
Well, those are life issues. Schools are just life issues. You know, we try to prepare them before they go off to college. We try to let them know, well, hey, you know, this is what's gonna happen. These are some of the temptations that you'll face. We had a session once before. Actually, it was my first session where we were trying to explain to some of the students that were seniors and they were about to graduate. I tried to explain to them. I said, well, listen, you know, you're gonna get to college, and we're not gonna be there to make you do something or to push you. You know, you're there by yourself. You got to make your own decisions. So what's the decision you're gonna make? You know, at first you may say, well, okay, you know, you got a roommate. They got friends. You got friends. Well, hey, it's Friday. Hey, we going out to TGI Friday to sit around and have a good time. Well, you might say, well, nah, I ain't gonna go. Nah, I ain't gonna go, because you still feel like, you know, you have what we've given you, but how long will it take before they start wearing on you to say, you know, well, hey, you never come. Why don't you come on and go? You know, and that one time that you go may turn to 2 times. 2 times may turn to 3 times. 3 times may turn into, I'm going every Friday now. Fridays turn into Saturdays. You know, and before you know it, you back home because you done forgot about school because you're having too much fun. So we try to prepare our young people for the world and we let them know it's a lot out here. You know, and we're not always going to be there to see what you're doing. We're not going to always be there to help you make the decision. But if we give you this now, you'll have it later on.
How important for the kids to learn how to say no?
Oh, it's very important because everything that you do.
I hate to cut you off. We're running real short on time. Hopefully you'll come back and tell some more about yourself in the mentoring program. Audience, I just want to thank Cory coming on the show. And next week I have Mr. George McCaughlin, he's the director of the CRISP program at Access 21. Thank you for watching the show. Welcome. This is my guest, Mr. George McCaughlin. He is the director of the Charlotte Readers Information Service. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very good.
Great. Tell you a little bit about Mr. McCaughlin. He's the director of the Charlotte Readers Information Service. He's born and raised in Toronto, Canada.
Right.
Executive of the S&H Motivation. And February the 14th, 2004, you started this program on Access 21 called the Readers, right? And you're a member of the board of directors at Access 21.
Correct.
Let's talk about the CRISP program. What about the CRISP program? What made you want to develop the CRISP program?
Well, first of all, I like to work with people. And in Detroit, I was on a reading service in Detroit before we moved here. And so when we moved here, I tried to find a service that I could read on, and there wasn't one. There was one at CPCC up until like 10, 15 years ago, but they canceled it, which is a reading service to blind people, which is what we do. And so I decided to start our own. And then I asked the Lions Club what they could do to help support us. And they said, well, we'll do this. We'll buy all